All right, yeah, that'll count. There we go. straight from the countdown. No trailer, straight in. How you guys doing? I'm Ben from Universal Audio. Welcome back to another After Hours. Apologies if you were watching this live and there was a little bit of a delay there, but of course the one time I'm like, I've got plenty of time. I can totally restart the system and give it a fresh boot was the time that I messed something up. So if you tuned in earlier today, we did a cool broadcast talking all about how we do our live streaming setup. And I think when I was demonstrating how to set up the Q mixes, I changed one important setting that seemed to have broken my entire loopback situation. So in case anyone is here from that earlier session, let me show you my screen. The important setting that I messed up was here in the IO matrix. The number of outputs, it seems loopback seems to cooperate much better when you set this to 32, or if you don't use any of the outputs, then it will work. So as soon as I undid what I did earlier, we got back up and running. And look at this. We've got our song, Keep You Down, from our homie Johnny Burgos, who I haven't seen him there in the chat quite yet. But yeah, so we've been working on the song. This is After Hours number 3. The first two, we kind of started with the mix. Sorry, the first session we started working on the mix. Second session we got further on the mix, and now we're out here on the third session. So now we're getting into this is the stuff that we typically never get to when we're making demo mixes or quick little live stream mixes, over UA or on Pure Mix or anywhere. This is the detail stuff. This is now. It's sounding pretty good, but it's where do you take it after it sounds good? How do you take it from yeah, that sounds good to okay, yeah, that's finished and this is ready to ship. So yeah, that's going to be my goal for this show today, is to start taking it towards the finish line, because that's the ultimate goal. Actually like the long, there we go. Yep. I like the long countdown as well. Yep, and if you guys haven't heard, there's an update. We are up to 1.0.2. It's worked out really well for me so far. It seems to be much more stable, and I mean it's always kind of been stable, but we talked about this earlier. I've got a pretty beefy machine running Luna here, but I've got reports from other people that it is running much better, especially people on laptops we're dealing with a lot of fan noise and some MIDI issues. So if you haven't done that update, I highly recommend that you do it now. All you gotta do is come over here, Luna, check for updates, or just launch Luna, and it should bug you right when you launch the app. And if it's not, then you need to make sure that you're signed in. So down here at the bottom left, if this says log in, then do what it says and log in, and then it should present you with the update. All right. So now if you've got your updates, if you're tuned in, happy to see you guys. And let's hear the song, and then let's get to work. All right. And I'll keep an eye over here every once in a while, but I'm going to focus and work for a little bit, and then we'll go back to some questions in a half hour or so. So get a pen and paper, start taking notes. All right, here we go.
They wanna see us down.
That's right.
So we stay freedom bound. Nothing can keep us down if we ain't scared to leave the ground. Oh.
We got it conflicted. We hate ourselves more than the system. Chasing an image without a vision, no pot to pissing. Believe I'm no different. Sometimes I feel like I'm only standing it. Just think about money and bitches. We doing all the heavy lifting. They keep us complacent. Materialism, religion, addiction. The freedom is fake when conviction is based off the description. And the White House full of clowns. The ringleader want the crown. The clan is all of they mans. Now whether they fan base over here tripping. See, we been played for a fool. Following these made up rules. And the police stay so deep in the hate. These kids ain't safe in the school. And believe I hate them, but we can't just blame guns. We walking around them with our face stuck all in the screen. Slave to the green, forgotten the dream.
Yeah, they wanna see us down. So we stay freedom bound. Nothing can keep us down. We ain't scared to leave the ground. Oh,
Don't be scared. so high. They feeding us garbage. We eating regardless. You are what you eat. Hard to compete without owning your harvest. See, government is monopoly. Consume with their pockets and not the needs of the people. And this kind of evil is what they want us to not believe. And the proof is plain to see. It's how this nation came to be. We living in shame. Ain't nothing gonna change till we face our roots in slavery. Ooh, that guilt is heavy, man. But nothing more deadly than being young, brown, or black and American. I'm mixed, but I ain't gassed. My skin so light, I pass. Most see it as privilege, but me it was something that I never fit in. Conflicted existence, stick out in my family's image. But as long as I'm hard to stack, I'ma keep riding for my better half. Come on.
They wanna see us down. That's right. So we stay freedom bound. Nothing can keep us down. We ain't scared to leave the ground. Oh,
We ain't scared. We gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' fly. The nerve in you to even dare to think that I should care how you feel. I throw you off, I know it's red, but no emotions can be spared when shit's real. Let's go.
they wanna see us down.
See
us down.
We stay
Freedom bound.
freedom bound.
Nothing can
That's right.
keep us down. We ain't scared.
We ain't
to
scared.
leave the ground. Oh,
Can't be scared. Gotta spread those wings.
All right, so that's the song. I see that some questions are rolling in. I'll get to these when we get to a break. So keep on tuning in. So as you saw while we're listening back, this is a chance. This is always my favorite part of any mixing session. It's getting to hear something fresh again, because this is kind of when it becomes brutally obvious what's left to do, and are there any gaps? Are there any moments that aren't quite working yet? So as you saw, what I'm kind of one of my preferred ways before we really get into like tweaky automation stuff is to be doing a lot of clip gain and kind of just getting an overall balance kind of working everywhere, and then using clip gain to push things in or out from part to part. So like raised up this first chorus, it's a little more broken down, but the keys were just missing, so all it was bass and vocal. Which should help.
they wanna see us down.
That's right.
So we stay freedom bound. Nothing can keep us down. If we ain't scared to leave the ground. Oh,
And I mean the hook vocal is just a little bit loud there because there's not quite as much going on.
they wanna see us down.
That's right.
So we stay.
So you'll see me doing this a lot, and this is definitely my preferred way of kind of navigating around a session. You'll see I'll select an area I want to work on, hit the E key, and that kind of just brings it up, fills the screen with that section. I can make whatever tweaks, minor little automation adjustments or edits or clip gains, anything like that, and then I just hit the E key and it zooms me back out, so I can again just kind of look for my next target to work on. So the intro feels really dry, and it's just that guitar kind of Spider-Man cool riff that comes back in the chorus, but we got to make that a moment. We got to make this first chorus feel good after that moment, and then like once it gets to the first verse, like now I feel like we've kind of gotten the mix good for the first verse and that chorus where it's bigger, but before then, and also this like post-chorus part we can have some fun with. So let me just hear that chorus again. Just make sure, again, I want to make sure that we're starting from a good spot before we start diving off some cliffs.
They wanna see us down. That's right. So we stay freedom bound. Nothing can keep us down. We ain't scared to leave the ground. Oh,
Don't be scared. We gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' fly. So high. They feeding us garbage. We eating regardless. You are what you eat. Hard to
Cool, just brought down that low octave, kind of that chop and screw kind of vocal, brought that down for the hook a little bit. it's feeling pretty good. So where do we start? How do we make this post-chorus kind of like take off and go a different direction? Well, the first way that I can think of to do that is to come over to my drums. Again, I can just select all these, select the tracks, scroll down. I love having this focus channel here. So you can see my output for all these tracks is already going multiple places. And I want to add another one. We'll call it a post drum sauce. Make sure those are all going. There we go. So that adds it to the list. There's a couple other different ways to do that, and I wonder if I might have just messed something up, guys, because I don't think all of the drums were all going to all my subs. So that's yeah, as I thought. So I had a bunch of them that are going to just drums, and then the heavy hitters were going to the multiples. I do really enjoy that Luna allows you to undo even things like output routing and sends and stuff like that. So you can see a lot of these percussion tracks were just going to the one drum track, whereas like a lot of the heavy hitters, like I mentioned, are going somewhere else. So how should I do what I did without doing what I did? Well, there we go. So I didn't undo enough to delete that bus. But I did undo enough to at least bring my routing back to how I had it, which is good. So now I can click on output here. And now no matter what these were selected on, this should, but you know what, let's be safe. Better safe than sorry. So multiples, you guys pressing shift and clicking on the bus allows you to also send it to that bus, which is how we're doing all this crazy parallel stuff. And yep, so these ones are all going to just drums. So now they're going to go to the sauce. And this live percussion, you can also go to the sauce. So now all the drums are getting routed as they should be through these. And then what we can do is come to the post-chorus and let's focus in on my other drum buses. Let's measure out post to verse 2. Select these buses. All right, so now the dry. Oops, I do that all the time. There we go. So dry drums. Let's bring that down a bit. The drums slap. We're not going to be slapping drums around here in that part, and same with the crush. Maybe just a little bit less of that. So this way, we're still getting some of the dry sound through.
Don't be scared.
But it's primarily this new post-drum sauce track. So now we can have some fun. And by fun, I mean we pull up the Moog Multimode XL.
Don't be scared. We gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' fly. So high. Don't be scared. We gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon'
Let's see if any of these presets feel good. Interesting. That one's not bad. Let's keep seeing. Let's see if we can go any better than that. But that one's kind of real. There we go. So I think that's the vibe. So those are all great settings. Let's keep going. There's a preset for every condition. Those are not for this one. So all these really bloopy ones are not exactly what I think we need here. So this one's cool because it's making it dynamic. It's not doing a ton, but it's doing just what it needs. Let's lower that filter down a little bit. That sounds good. Oh, let's try this. So I have fully been sleeping on the precision delays. Turns out they're actually really good. Very useful, and they come for free with your Apollo. Don't care about the modulation rate. But you guys are seeing in real time me learning how to operate these because I don't use these very often at all. And of course, most importantly, we only want these effects happening here in the post. So let me go through real quick and just automate all of these away. Something that would make my life easier is if I move the grid. There we go. Using the shift minus and plus keys to quickly change my grid settings. Leave it crazy for the bridge. And then come in here. Boom, like that. See
Nothing can keep us down. We ain't scared to leave the ground. No, don't be scared. We gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' so high. They feeding us garbage, we eating regard.
Okay, we're getting somewhere. We're starting to float on some air. That's what we're looking for. We can add some extra verb to that.
Don't be scared. We gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' fly.
So as you can hear, now that we turn off all of the compression channels for the drums, they're popping out and all over the place. So now would be a good time to just go with kind of a lightweight compressor, something that's just gonna help me keep the
Don't be scared. We gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' so high. They feeding us garbage, we eating regardless. You are what you eat. Hard.
There we go. Now we're getting somewhere, right?
Don't be scared. So high.
We kind of started working on this a little bit last week, I think, with these harmonies. Yeah, so we've got this effect rack going on that's adding a touch of phaser. I think we can go further.
So high. Feeding us garbage, we eating regardless. You are what you eat, hard to compete without owning your harvest. See, government is monopoly, cause some with their pockets are nothing to the people. We ain't scared to leave the ground, no, don't be scared. We gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' so high.
Yes, I like it. So now it's also really the only other element through that part is the this keyboard part, which actually might sound pretty good if we don't let me forget this. Forgot one marker.
Can't be scared. Gotta spread those wings.
Our last post chorus right there. Don't want to sleep on that. Delete that. Come in here. Bring up that new drum effects aux. Come down. Cancel the crush and slap a little bit. Boom. This is why automation is. I try to save it for as late as possible, and it's not just because I'm lazy, but it's because once you start kind of committing to these, it's now the only way I can really make big adjustments to these drum groups is by either using the trim mode, which turns the fader yellow, and now I can trim up and down based on this automation, or turn off trim on there. The other thing I can do is, since these are all using the Neve summing plugin, I've got this handy dandy trim pot up at the top of that, so you can easily, if I do need to make some adjustments and I don't want to have to come in here and select all my automation and then trim those up and down, you can actually just do that here on the channel. So there's a couple different places you can trim things, but again, just my habits are always to save the trimming for as late as possible. All right, let's see.
We ain't scared. We gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' fly. The nerve of you to even dare to think that I should care how you feel. I throw you off, I know it's rare, but no emotions can be spared when she's real. Let's go. They wanna see us down. See us down. We stay freedom bound.
There we go. It's working. The extra phaser there feels good. All right, back on task. Here we go. We just duplicated this verse keys track. So this is the one of the tracks that kind of runs throughout the whole song. So what I want to do is, by duplicating it here, it's already got effects. I'm already doing stuff to it. We went over these. This was probably pretty early on decisions here, but we do have some touch of EQ, a little bit of compression, and then I'm pulling in my favorite effect rack and going a little bit nuts with phaser, delay, microshift, more delay. Your typical, what you should or shouldn't do. I don't know if I can recommend that for every track, but for this song, for this vibe, for this part, that is, I think, the way to start. However, for our double, for our copy, if you will, I'm gonna leave. Maybe I'll leave this. Let's hear it in solo. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up that little, you guys all heard that little click pop, right? Let's delete, fade, boom, problem solved. And there was a little one over here, but I don't think anyone else is going to notice that besides those of us here today. Let's get weird, man. Let's get, I don't know if we're going to get weird with this one. Maybe this might be like medium weird, but either way, kind of one of my favorite things to do when I'm doing stuff like this and trying to like go someplace with the track is, as you saw, just cruising through presets. If I knew exactly what I wanted, I'd be doing it. But since I don't exactly know what I want, now is a good time to get inspired by some cool presets by these amazing artists. These are all going to be kind of ambiances, the AMS is delay, ambience. I don't think we're getting anything super weird in here. And it's great. They modeled everything about this, including the way it breaks up and that harsh crackle on it. Like that is actually how the real unit sounds, verbatim. Let's try time tunnel. What is this? Let's do wet dry. It's just we're not getting there, guys. We haven't found anything that like screaming for it yet. Let's try freeze. That sounds wonderful. Let's see, there we go. I can trim the decay time a little bit. Trying to, so that every once in a while you guys are hearing that little sizzle that it's doing, because this sounds cool, but that sizzle sounds weird. It gets too strange for me. I'm good looking for strange, but like I don't want something that sounds like it's wrong. That sizzle feels weird, but the vibe is right. Keep in mind these are going to be playing together. Let's see what that sounds like without. Yeah, maybe this is it. I don't know. Let's find out.
We ain't scared to leave the ground. Oh, don't be scared.
We gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' fly. So high. They feeding us garbage. We eating regardless. You are what you eat. Hard to compete without owning your harvest. See, government is monopoly. Cause some with their pockets and nothing. To the people. And this kind of evil is what they want us to not believe. And the proof is plain to see. It's how this nation came to be. We living in shame. Ain't nothing gonna change. Till we face our roots in slavery. Ooh, that guilt is heavy, man. But nothing more deadly than being young, brown, or black and American.
Okay. So as you saw, the purpose of duplicating this track, throwing it, giving it its own AMS RMX just for this one section, was to add some lift and add some let's space it out when we get here. But I was like, yeah, for that second verse, how can we make the second verse feel different from the first? There's already some different effects kind of going on in the keys. You can see it's not like a one-to-one copy here. But it's actually sounded kind of cool to leave that little bit extra space since the guitars are kind of driving the second verse. So why not leave this crazy verbed out one in here? So I pulled it down with the clip gain, and then to my ear I was like, hey, what if we, we've got these pitch controls right here on the clip. So I just popped it up an octave, and it felt good when we were playing back.
You are what you eat. Hard to compete without.
So we ain't scared.
We gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' fly. The nerve of you to even dare to think that I should care how you feel. I threw you off, I know it's rare, but no emotions can be spared when shit's real. Let's go.
They wanna see us down.
And then we just did the opposite thing there for the bridge because it kind of could use a little bit more down below. So same thing, brought the clip gain down so it's a little bit more out of the way, but then dropped it that octave. I think that sounded pretty good. Let's hear these two together. That works. So there's some, it's a combination of some, plug-in processing plus some clip processing, getting to somewhere kind of cool there. Let's see how we're feeling for that first chorus.
Keep us down, we ain't scared to leave the ground. Oh, don't be scared.
We gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' so high. They feeding us garbage. We eating regardless. You are what you eat. Hard to compete without owning your harvest. See, government is monopoly. Consume what they pockets and nothing to the people. And this kind of evil is what they want us to not believe. And the proof is plain to see. It's how this nation came to be. We living in shame. Ain't nothing gonna change till we face our roots in slavery. Ooh, that guilt is heavy, man. But nothing more deadly than being young, brown, or black and American. I'm mixed, but I ain't gassed. My skin's so light, I pass. Most of it is privilege, but me it was something that I never fit in. Conflicted existence, stick out in my family's image. But as long as I'm hard to stack, I'ma keep riding for my better half. Come on.
All right, and then definitely that last part of the verse where it moves to a little bit more of a driving feel.
I know black and American. I'm mixed, but I ain't gassed. My skin's so light, I pass. Most of it is privilege, but me it was something that I never fit in. Conflicted existence, stick out in my family's image. But as long as I'm
You know what? Does it? Let's try this out. Real time edit. Does it need that keyboard for that part of the verse?
no black and American. I'm mixed, but I ain't gassed. My skin's so light, I pass. Most of it is privilege, but me it was something that I never fit in. Conflicted existence, stick out in my family's image. But as long as
Answer is yes, it does need that there. But we can probably pull that down a little bit so there's a little more focus on the energetic arrangement stuff that's happening. And let's listen again, see if there's anything else we can add some, a lot of times I figured this out a little while doing a lot of hip hop and mixtape style sessions was like when you're very limited to your tracks and you got to be working fast, usually the best way to keep on adding energy to an arrangement is actually take things away, start breaking things down, and then that'll actually make the chorus or a reverse or just a moment happen a lot more. It's often not adding things, it's often just taking them away. So let's see if we can find something to take away in this part just to clean up the arrangement and the interplay between all the bass, guitars, keyboard, and drums, all supporting this lead vocal, which is number one with the bullet, the most important part of the song.
no black and American. I'm mixed, but I ain't gassed. My skin's so light, I pass. Most of it is privilege, but me it was something that I never fit in. Conflicted existence, stick out in my family's image. But my skin's so light, I pass. Most of it is privilege, but me it was something that I never fit in. Conflicted existence, stick out in my family's image. But as long as I'm hard to stack, I'ma keep riding for my better half. Come on.
We wanna
No black and American. I'm mixed, but I ain't gassed. My skin's so light, I pass. Most of it is privilege, but me it was something that I never fit in. Conflicted existence, stick out in my family's image. But as long as I'm hard to stack, I'ma keep riding for my better half. Come on.
we wanna
Let's see. We might be able to get away with just none of the 808 bass through that part.
No black and American. I'm mixed, but I ain't gassed. My skin's so light, I pass. Most of it is privilege, but me it was something that I never fit in. Conflicted existence, stick out in my family's image. But as long as I'm hard to stack, I'ma keep riding for my better half. Come on.
we wanna see us down.
As long as I'm hard to stack, I'ma keep riding for my better half. Come on.
We wanna
As long as I'm hard to stack, I'ma keep riding for my better half. Out in my family's image, but as long as I'm hard to stack, I'ma keep riding for my better half. Distance, stick out in my family's image, but as long as I'm hard to stack, I'ma keep riding for my better half. As I'm hard to stack, I'ma keep riding for my better half.
Let's try some tricky stuff here. Maybe like duplicating that guitar.
To stack, I'ma keep riding for my better half. Come on.
we wanna
But as long as I'm hard to stack, I'ma keep riding for my better half. Come on.
we wanna
But as long as I'm hard to stack, I'ma keep riding for my image. But as long as I'm hard to stack, I'ma keep riding for my better half. Come on.
we wanna
But as long as I'm hard to stack, I'ma keep riding for my better half. Come on.
we wanna
Let's try pulling that sub bass in, so now it's just on that reverse part.
I'ma keep riding for my better half. Come on. They wanna. I'm hard to stack. I'ma keep riding for my better.
You can see every time I try to add something, it sounds better just taking things away, especially for this moment.
Being young, brown, or black and American. I'm mixed, but I ain't gas. My skin's so light, I pass. Mostly it is privilege. Familiar with something that I never fit in. Conflicted existence, stick out in my family's image. But as long as I'm hard to stack, I'ma keep riding for my better half. Come on.
What if we pull that like minus an octave on that part?
I'm mixed, but I ain't gas. My skin's so light, I pass. Mostly it is privilege. Familiar with something that I never fit in. Conflicted existence, stick out in my family's image. But as long as I'm hard to stack, I'ma keep riding for my better half. Come on.
There we go. So taking out a little bit of bass, taking out like one guitar note, dropping that key part in volume, and also bringing it down an octave. It's starting to feel that now it's a little something special. And keep in mind, of course, remember that first verse when we got to that moment, we actually put one of those ad libs into like a cool phone ad lib vibe.
See, we be played for a fool, following these made up rules.
Which is like a cool moment. But since the flow here isn't quite the same.
I ain't gas. My skin's so light, I pass. Mostly it is privilege. Familiar with something that I never fit in. Conflicted existence, stick out in my family's image. But as long as I'm hard to stack, I'ma keep riding for my better half. Come on.
Yeah, it's a little bit more of a flow thing that just doesn't feel like it needs a crazy vocal effect. Oh, and we're up to a half hour. All right, Q&A time, guys. Ask me questions. I'm gonna give you some answers. Let me look at the chat. Wasn't mad at dropping the sub bass. Good. Oh yeah. What up, Johnny? I love getting the real time mixed feedback via the live chat here, guys. I see you, Mr. Dr. Voodoo, out there answering people's questions for me, doing my job. I appreciate you. Do you have to have the record button enabled on a track before hitting record? It certainly helps. There are, let's test it out on my rig here. Let's make a new just mono audio track. I've got a guitar cable sitting right next to me. No, I lied. The guitar cable runs way back there, but put in record. Hit the record. Hit command space bar to record something. Let's try. I don't think this works. I think if you put in the play.
Nothing more deadly than being young, brown, or black and American.
I don't know did you guys see what just happened there? We're in a pretty heavyweight mix session. I pressed play, then I record enabled my track, and then I hit command spacebar to record enable, and it did all of that without throwing up a hissy fit. It's pretty remarkable. In case that all happened too fast, let me show you. So to answer the actual question here, do you have to hit the record button enable before hitting record? No, you don't. You can.
Roots in slavery. Ooh, that guilt is heavy, man. But nothing more deadly than being young, brown, or black and American.
So probably a better way to prove this would be something with actual signal in it, right? There we go. Oh, I might have just messed up my Apollo twin behind me. So we had signal for a second. It was not happy. So in theory, yes, you can record enable a track after you're already recording. Luna's pretty powerful in that sense. All right, I'm backing up, looking for questions. So is the drums going to parallels individually, or do they go to a group and from there go to the parallels, the crush, slap, moog, etc.? So they are going to the parallels both as individuals and as a group, I guess, if that makes sense. So what's happening is kick. Let me show you. So when I click on the output for my kick track, you can see it's going to 4 different places. It's going to 4 buses, the post-drum sauce, drums, slap, and crush. And then same for a lot of these. But then when I got to like some of the percussion that don't need the slap or the crush effects, those are just going to the main drums and my sauce. So you could, I think I explained this in one of the earlier after hours, you can set up parallels as sends as well. So like, you could come over here and say, as a send out of my percussion, I would like you to be sent to the drum crush. And now I can control the amount of this percussion track going into that crush bus. If that's how you want to work, and a lot of times for parallels, this does work really well because it allows you to customize the balance as you're pushing it into some crazy compression. But for this one, Vance had just hit me right when we did the first session on this. I had just learned that you could send a track to multiple outputs, and it was I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So I decided to route my drums that way this time. But yeah, it's pretty flexible in terms of all the cool parallel stuff you can do. The only thing that you can't do that I was kind of used to coming from Pro Tools is you'll notice these buses. The one thing that they don't have up here is you can't assign an input. So a bus is an input. So you can't say like with an audio track, and same with these, they can only have one input as far as I know. So let's see. Yeah, you can only have one input at a time. So you can't, and in Pro Tools you could have, you could use one drums and then make multiple buses that are all listening to the same thing. It's kind of the opposite in Luna, where you can send a track to multiple outputs, but you can't make an input listen to multiple. You can't make multiple tracks that are all listening to the same input. I hope that makes sense, but it's a little confusing. Just know the moral of the story is that what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to use either the outputs to mult it to different buses, or use your sends if you want to be crushing stuff the way I like to crush stuff. All right, let me scroll back down. You learned that save from the Coolest Puppet. And what'd you learn from the Coolest Puppet? Yeah, number 7 on the numeric keypad. If you have the numeric keypad, there's a bunch of cool shortcuts like 7 and 3. 4 is for loop on and off. 1 and 2 don't work. In Pro Tools, 1 and 2 kind of moves your timeline around. Does 9? Let's see if 9 does merge. Yep. So 9 is MIDI merge. So that controls if you want to overdub or replace your MIDI. 7 is your click on and off. 3 is record, and 4 is loop on and off. I can't remember I don't think 5 and 8 do anything, and 0, 1, and 2 don't do anything right now. The enter key is what sets up markers. Yeah, lots of cool tips there. And the Realist Puppet I watched the Reed Stefan video last night, and he did a really good job. He kind of missed that shape also has drums in it. It's actually got some. He got to the percussion eventually, but he also he's got to rep the whole loops, which I understand. Keeping scrolling back up. Only thing you're disappointed is that you thought you were getting auto-tune and you didn't. I'm sorry you didn't get auto-tune. But you can always go over here to the Discover page, and in here you'll find all of the UAD plugins, Luna instruments, and extensions, where you can demo. Always remember, guys, you can demo any of these plugins for 14 days, but then you can also purchase them here. And you can always get good deals on UAD plugins if you know how the sales stuff works. And there's cheat codes out there for it. And by cheat codes, I mean there's people who know what we do and how the UAD sales stuff works. Who's the artist? The artist for this one is my homie Johnny Burgos. Saw a Facebook comment. It was awesome. Been recording. We'd like to know if we can quantize polyphonic, monophonic, or razor blade. You can't quantize audio yet. You can quantize any MIDI that you want, but you can. And it's yeah. So you just can't do it to audio yet. You can get in there and you can do warp editing. So I can show so you can see all the warps and you can move them. You can turn your cursor onto snap and move them around. But right now you can't just quantize and have it all snap to place. So I'll show you how we all can get that is by hitting this feedback button. I need to be able to quantize audio warps, please. I always suggest being polite and nice in the feedback because humans read these, and the nicer and more descriptive and more precise that you can be with your feedback, the better. Put your name on it so they know it's you. Add your email and hit submit. Nice. How can we save vocal effects and chains in Luna like in console? You can't do that quite yet. Not in version 1. That is hopefully coming at some point in time in an update. But the number one way to get that to happen is to hit report feedback. I would like to save effect chains in Luna like I do in console. And I'm 100% with you on that one. So that's how we get that feature added to Luna. Showing how to send feedback now. Yep. How much can you use your CPU for the UAD plugins and or Unison modeling? So the cool thing about Luna is it's doing some really smart balancing between native processing and DSP processing. So all these UAD plugins that I'm pulling up on these channels, these are all running on DSP. So these are using the Apollo DSP, and I've also got 2 satellites sitting on top of my rig over there. Obviously the AU plugins like the Sound Toys and FabFilter stuff I'm using, those are using the CPU. Oxide and Studer and the Neve summing, so all the input and tape processing, the extensions, these are all happening natively. And just like with everything with Luna, it will you can do as much as your computer can possibly handle. So you can have huge sessions with tons of stuff all happening on it. If you've got a really beast machine with good i7 or better processors, SSDs, lots of memory, you're gonna have a really good time inside of Luna because it's very, very efficient. But all of these plugins are still, all the UAD stuff is still utilizing DSP. And you're asking, well, why if some stuff's native, why can't we just do everything natively? It's because to be able to do the advanced real-time monitoring, to be able to track and have a low latency tracking experience, and to have it just be, everything's kind of coming at you exactly when and where you would expect it to, and not having to deal with any buffer sizes, that requires DSP. DSP is kind of the only way to get that sort of real-time processing happening. So that's why we have this cool hybrid system, and Luna just does a lot of cool stuff in the background, so that, as you saw, I can just make an audio track, assign it an input, and put it into record, and then now any effects I put on here, amps, I can put them in the inserts. I can also throw them up here in the Unison slot, so now it's actually reacting just like a Fender 55 would, listening to my high Z input over there. All of this is made possible by DSP. You can't do stuff like this using native processes. So it's pretty cool how they're able to balance between all these things. And then of course, as soon as I'm done tracking, since this was loaded in the Unison slot or up in the record effects, as soon as I unrecord enable, it's going to unload that out of my DSP because it's no longer processing through there. So you actually can save on DSP power by committing to sounds using the Unison slot and the record effects. All right, I'll do one more question and then we get back to work. What's the paid version offer? I assume it's the plugins, etc. Yep, exactly. So Luna, everything about it works for free. The thing that you can get in this Luna Creator Bundle, let's learn more. Let's learn together, guys. Is, oh man, sorry, I've got a lot of tabs open. That's gonna take a minute. Here, it says right here. So you get the Neve analog summing, the Studer multi-track tape, the Moog Mini Moog, and the Revell Grand Piano. So, 2 amazing instruments, 2 amazing Luna extensions. And if you already own the Studer plugin, like my account does, you get a $150 discount on that bundle. So yeah, that's the pro upgrade, I guess you could say, for Luna is getting the bundle where you unlock all those extensions and instruments. But out of the box, you're gonna get Shape and the Shape expansion, which are the samples and keyboards and just a ton of amazing sounds. Those are included for free. Oxide tape recorder included completely for free. ARP included for free. There's a ton of amazing free stuff in Luna. And then the paid stuff is, if you've used UAD plugins before, it's the same teams, it's the same vibe, it's the same detail and attention to quality that you come to expect from UAD plugins. Will you be able to use, say, ATR tape alongside Oxide and Studer? Yeah, of course. I mean, you can use it now. You can throw the 102, in on a bus as an insert, which would make a lot of sense. I've been doing this a lot on like my master fader or on like, groups where I want the ATR sound. Will you be able to add it into the tape extension? Like will we be able to make a ATR tape machine? I don't know. Hit the feedback button. Let's find out. Tell them that you want it. Let us know what you guys want to see next for tape machines in here. Hit the feedback button. That's the best way for us to gauge what to make next. Any plans for window version? We are hearing. I've heard a rumor that a lot of people really want a Windows version of Luna. I can't report anything on that right now. Just like we don't discuss future products or releases. But I can absolutely tell you that we're hearing lots of people would like it. So, keep on asking. But no, for now, the team is fully focused on making Luna the best it possibly can be. And we had to do that. We had to focus on one platform to start with. So we started where a lot of musicians are, which is on Macs. Killer. Oh wait, one more good question. Any way to manually set a negative delay to a track? To reamp a DI signal without ARM to get it all mixed processing, I need to set the DI out early and to return in time. No, not an easy way. The only thing I could really think for that would be to actually drag the region backwards. That's kind of the best solution for now. There isn't really I know in Ableton you've got like a track delay thing that you can push forward or backwards for the whole track. We don't have that yet in Luna. So if you don't commit to audio, will it then convert to a normal plugin that you can modify the amp model sound? No. Well, it depends on how you do it. So if you do it, if you put your Fender 55 up here in the unison slot, it's like you're recording through an amp being recorded through microphones. That's the sound that you're going to get. If you want to be able to tweak that stuff after the fact, you're going to want to bring that down here into the insert slot. And when it's down here, that means that you're going to monitor through it so you get the same sound, but you're not committing to those sounds. So you end up just recording the clean DI and then affecting it afterwards. And then, of course, when I take this out of record, you can see the Fender 55 is there ready and waiting for me. So hopefully that was clear and helpful. All right, guys, I'm going to actually get into work. Built-in extension or ADR system? Nope, not yet. How often will shape be updated with new sounds, etc.? Not sure. Depends on how many people give us feedback that they like more sounds and stuff. And do you guys notice a theme of new features and new sounds and stuff like that? It's all about that feedback button. All right, guys. Really, really good questions. Thank you very much. I'm gonna kind of try to focus my ears and brain back into the mix and keep on driving towards the finish line. And I've totally forgotten where I am. You guys got me all distracted with so many good questions. Let's go back to the top. Let's see how we're dealing with this. Because the post-chorus stuff, the bridge, we're getting some flavor going on. But now let's work on this intro part.
They wanna see us down.
That's right.
So we stay freedom bound. Nothing can keep us down if we ain't scared to leave the ground. They wanna see us down.
That's right.
So we stay freedom bound. Nothing can keep us down if we ain't scared to leave the ground.
That's
Oh,
right. We got a conflict in an image.
see us down.
That's right.
So we stay freedom bound. Nothing can keep us down if we ain't scared to leave the ground.
That's
Oh,
right. We got.
I hope you guys see. I'm just kind of using a similar trick here, but that intro, that first chorus keys, they're cool. Brought them up a little bit in level just so you can feel them a little bit more. Trying to make it feel a little bit less hollow and give that vocal a little bit more support. But since I've got this cool, we'll call it trippy keys, which is basically just a lot of crazy long non-linear reverb from the RMX. But going into that, I can use the clip gain to get the right amount of that effect. But then also I love playing with the clip pitch and being able to send that up or down an octave to get a totally different effect.
They wanna see us down.
That's right.
So we stay freedom bound. Nothing can keep us down. If we ain't scared to leave the ground.
That's
Oh.
right. We got it conflicted. We hate ourselves more than the system. Chasing an image without a vision.
All right, so let's think about this guitar and that the bass, the like electric bass. That they're very, very dry. Very dry. Let me see if my vocal room is an appropriate place to throw that guitar.
They wanna They wanna see us down.
So it's just taking it from being like, wow, why is there a guitar amp right in my ear, to being like, oh, there's a guitar amp in the room. I like that. Something to note is, I'd labeled that vocal room. I was originally using it for to add a little bit of room ambience around that vocal. Yeah, using the Lexicon 224. So now that I've cheated and stolen that reverb and used it for guitar purposes, just the one thing to keep in mind is, like, when if you're going to be creating stems for, say, like a live show, Luna's got a really sick way of making stems. So I just hit Option Command B to bring up the bounce to disk menu, and you can see Luna lets me export buses. So I can actually I can make a bus. I can export just the guitar, and this will be the guitars for the whole track with all the effects printed. And this is, if you do it right, if you are very clean and precise about how you bus things together, you can use this and get show stems very, very easily, including the effects. But now that I've used the vocal room for guitars, if I was to send the stem out for remixing or for live show programming or anything like that, I would just have to probably come through and be mute the guitars so they don't bleed into the room and then do another pass. Just makes things a little bit more complicated if you cross patch different buses, but it's also very efficient in terms of not having to create another room reverb and use more processing just to do about the same thing. So I personally, the amount of times that people need that level of stem access is this much, and if they ask for it, then they usually can pay for it. In which case, I can just sit here and solo tracks and do bounces out of my main, which is kind of my preferred way of doing stems like that for a show. So I can actually come in here and say, great, drums now, all the parallels, all the sends, everything like that gets sent together, and I would go through and do the session that way, and you end up kind of repeating your bounces over and over again. But that way you don't have to worry about, oh, did I send something to, did I send a guitar to my vocal room? I'm messing things up. I prefer to just mess things up and then be more precise when I go to print stems for people after the fact, as opposed to trying to be extra clean and make sure everything's all conformed together so I can not cheat, but I can take the shortcut and kind of just export stems like that.
They wanna
I think it's this, yeah, that's percussion track. I love it. Did I maybe thin this out too much? I didn't really thin it out. I just add the devil lock to compress it, hold it all together. But you know what it also needs? It needs some room ambience around it.
They wanna
We got it conflicted. We hate ourselves more than the system. Chasing an image without a vision. No pot to piss in. Believe I'm no different.
You'd be surprised, man. Throw a little bit of room on some stuff, and it instantly starts fitting into the mix in a little bit nicer way. But again, to keep this mix is definitely very hip hop inspired. So one of the notable things about a lot of a lot of the hip hop records, especially the ones that Johnny and I are referencing for making this album, they're pretty dry. They're not these big trippy, spacey, cloudy messes. They're kind of dry and in your face. So my intention is to keep things as close to the listener as possible. But that doesn't mean zero reverb or zero ambience. It means being selective and precise about what gets ambience.
They wanna see us down.
That's right.
So we stay freedom bound. Nothing can keep us down if we ain't scared to leave the ground. Oh.
We got it conflicted. We hate ourselves more than the system. Chasing an image without a vision, no pot to piss in. Believe I'm no different. Sometimes I feel like I'm only standing it. Just think about money and bitches. We doing all the heavy lifting. They keep us complacent. Materialism, religion, addiction. The freedom is fake when conviction is based on fitting description. And the White House.
All right, here we go. So gain staging 101. This track, this is the guitar riff. These are DI guitars that were sent without, they were sent with the amp sim on them still. So I was able to export when I came out of Pro Tools and into Luna for this. I was able to export them just as clean DIs so that I could, play around with the amp modeling myself. So the guitar here, this first part of the verse, poking out to me, it's a little bit loud. Want to just kind of tuck it in a little bit. Now, if I do this by changing the clip gain, again, this is me being lazy, trying to automate as little as I possibly can with automation points. It's just a weird habit of mine. But if I'm changing the gain here, it's actually changing how much it's pushing into this amp and then pushing into the SSL channel, which is not compressing or really doing anything besides like a little bit of an EQ. So that's all good. That's all fine. It's great. But I may need to do a lot of this to get a bit of effect because that guitar amp, it's driving things. So, a little 2 dB drop might not actually be enough. Let me play with it.
We got it conflicted. We hate ourselves. We got it conflicted. We got it conflicted.
So that's 4 dB down just on the clip. And you hear here it didn't just get softer. It got like a little bit more muted, a little bit cloudier. It's because it's hitting the guitar amp in a different way. For comparison, let me bring that back up to 0. And now if I select this and automate that down like this much.
We got it conflicted. We hate ourselves more than the system. Chasing an image without a. We got it conflicted.
So that's one way of doing it. The other way, let's see. I don't know which one I like better yet.
We got it conflicted. We hate ourselves more than the system. Chasing an image without a vision, no pot to piss in. Believe I'm no different.
All right. Well, I know which way I like better. I like the clip gain way because it frees me from having made automation points, so I can still do rides to that fader without needing to go into like some sort of trim mode. And it accomplished the goal of getting that a little bit out of the way, especially for that first phrase.
We got it conflicted. We hate ourselves more than the system. Chasing an image without a vision, no pot to piss in. Believe I'm no different. Sometimes I feel like I'm only standing it. Just think about money and bitches. We doing all the heavy lifting. They keep us complacent. Materialism, religion, addiction. The freedom is fake when conviction is based on fitting description. And the White House full of clowns. The ringleader want the crown. The clan is all of they mans. Now whether they fan base over here tripping. See, we been played for.
All right, so that octave guitar that comes in through the verse, I love that part. It was maybe a little bit much, so I'm going to pull it down. When I pulled it down, I was like, damn, now I miss it. So let me try adding some room to it. So now it can be down, but it can be a little bit more spread out in the stereo field.
We doing all the heavy lifting. They keep us complacent. Materialism, religion, addiction. The freedom is fake when conviction is based on fitting description. And the White House full of clowns. The ringleader want the crown. The clan is all of they mans. Now whether they fan base over here tripping. See, we been played for a fool. Follow what he's made up.
That's it. I'm always, when you're mixing stuff like this, you got to be thinking like 3 dimensions, and it's not just left, right, or faders up and down, or low frequencies, high frequencies. There's this whole depth to mixes, and that's a combination of level and ambience and panning, everything, all these things kind of affect each other. But for something like that, when I just want to bring it down, put it behind the lead vocal so the listener can focus on what matters, which is the lead vocal and the feeling that they're getting from the drums and bass. It's a cool guitar part, but it can be, a foot or two back in the mix and still be effective and cool.
We doing all the heavy lifting. They keep us complacent. Materialism, religion, addiction. The freedom is fake when conviction is based on fitting description. And the White House full of clowns. The ringleader want the crown. The clan is all of they mans. Now whether they fan base over here tripping. See, we been played for.
I dig it. I see. Be nice if mics could be moved around. Yeah. I mean, you can switch mics. You can move them. You can go on axis or off axis, but I'm gonna have to disagree with you because I've played with other amp sims where you can move the mic. You can add distance. You can move them around on the cone. Like there's people have done some really cool, tricky stuff with being able to move the mics on the cabs. But the cool thing about what we did for both the Fender 55 and also for the aux, you'll notice there isn't like, you can't just move the mics. You can swap different mic models, but the head start that you get is you are getting incredibly well placed microphones in the sweet spot. The guys who design these plugins and the sound designers and the product managers, if you guys knew how many hundreds of hours they spend figuring out which position is the best sounding one for almost any type of guitar, they obsess over these types of things. And I love getting that head start of being like, this is an incredible spot for these two microphones. It's the sweet spot. It's the one that to some really talented, experienced people, this is what sounds best. I'll take that. And if I don't like it, then I'll just switch the microphones around until I find something I like. If I still can't find it, maybe I'll switch the axis. If I still can't find it, then I'll change the speaker. And if I still can't find it, then maybe I'll switch plugins to a different one. You have lots of options there, but having that infinite movable mic, to me, doesn't feel like it's an advantage as much as it is to get this really well dialed in, perfectly placed microphone set that you get on like the Fender 55 and on the aux. However, I will shout out to Tyler Bryant, who showed me the Silver Jubilee. The cool thing about this is a soft tube emulation of the Marshall is it gives you 2 room microphones built into the plugin. So if you do want to add that distance, and you can even add some more delay to it to make it sound even more distant, don't sleep on the Silver Jubilee because it's a fantastic sounding Marshall, which can also do some cool clean tone stuff as well. But we already dialed in the sound of the Fender, so I'm not changing.
We doing all the heavy lifting. They keep us complacent. Materialism, religion, addiction. The freedom is fake when conviction is based on fit.
Oh, sorry. One more point about the moving mics. I almost forgot about this. I just talking about how great it is to have perfectly placed mics. Check out. So this is Ocean Way Studios. If you guys haven't heard this plugin yet, this is worth trying out on a bunch of stuff. And if I hadn't already had that room set up, I would be using this right now for the guitar room and that percussion room, because you can pick between the 2 Ocean Way rooms, Ocean A and B. You can select different areas of the room, and this is the cool thing that you start learning about these historic studios is people find out that there's a great spot in that room for drums. This is where 80% of the drums are cut in that room if they can. So what they did is they were able to use that knowledge from Alan Sides and the crew over at Ocean Way Studios when they made this plugin. Like, this is the best spot for guitars in A. If you had the whole room to yourself just to record guitars, this is the spot. But then this plugin, unlike the Fender 55, gives you the chance to slide those microphones back and forth on top of being able to choose what type of microphone it is you're using. So if you do want, and especially for adding space around guitars, do the Fender 55 into the Ocean Way. It's a lot of DSP usage, and but it's worth it because it sounds so good and it's so true to life. This is one of the most realistic room reverbs that I've ever heard for myself. So yeah, Ocean Way. You can do that distance. You can even put a mic up close. You can bring this into like a half foot for that close mic, and especially if you have in this re-mic mode, it's basically processing the audio as if you were recording through these 3 pairs of microphones, of which you can change the distance. I know they have some like spaced pairs in here as well, which is not in the guitar setting, but Oh, because I'm on a mono track right now. That's why we're not seeing the stereo version of this. We're on a mono guitar track, but yeah, this is incredible and super powerful and really beautiful sounding plugin. All right, enough talking about microphones and movement. Back to the mix. Let's hear from top because I got distracted.
They wanna see us down.
That's right.
So we stay freedom bound. Nothing can keep us down if we ain't scared to leave the ground. Oh.
We got it conflicted. We hate ourselves more than the system. Chasing an image without a vision, no pot to piss in. Believe I'm no different. Sometimes I feel like I'm only standing it. Just think about money and bitches. We doing all the heavy lifting. They keep us complacent. Materialism, religion, addiction. The freedom is fake when conviction is based off the description. And the White House full of clowns. The ringleader want the crown. The clan is all of they mans. Now whether they fan base over here tripping. See, we been played for a fool. Following these made up rules. And the police stay so deep in the hate. These kids ain't safe in the school. And believe I hate them. But we can't just blame guns. We walking around them with our face stuck on the screen. Slave to the green, forgotten the dream.
They wanna see us down. So we stay freedom bound. Nothing can keep us down. We ain't scared to leave the ground. Oh.
Don't be scared. We gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' fly. So high. They feeding us garbage. We eating regardless. You are what you eat. Hard to compete without owning your harvest. See, government is monopoly. Cause some with their pockets are nothing. To the people. And this kind of evil is what they want us to not believe. And the proof is plain to see. It's how this nation came to be. We living in shame. Ain't nothing gonna change. Till we face our roots in slavery. Ooh, that guilt is heavy, man. But nothing more deadly than being young, brown, or black and American. I'm mixed, but I ain't gassed. My skin's so light, I pass. Most see it as privilege. For me, it was something that I never fit in. Conflicted existence, stick out in my family's image. But as long as I'm hard to stack, I'ma keep riding for my better half. Come on.
They wanna see us down. So we stay freedom bound. Nothing can keep us down. We ain't scared to leave the ground. Oh.
We ain't scared. We gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' fly. The nerve of you to even dare to think that I should care how you feel. I throw you off, I know it's rare, but no emotions can be spared when she's real. Let's go.
They wanna see us down.
See us down.
We stay freedom bound.
Freedom bound.
Nothing can
That's right.
keep us down. We ain't scared to leave the ground. Oh.
Can't be scared. Gotta spread those wings.
Guys, we're getting really, to me, we're getting pretty close. I've got an idea for something to do here in the bridge. As you saw, I was pulling, kind of just checking out my 2-bus chain. This is kind of my sanity check. This is how I know, am I hitting things the way that I'm used to hitting them, which is dictated a lot by this SSL bus compressor. I've got a real one that I use often, but when I'm in the box, again, this is kind of like, if this is dancing just a little bit, if I'm just kissing the meter a little bit, that's how I know that I'm kind of in a good spot. You don't want this. I know some people really love to mix with like 4 to 8 dB of this, just kind of always going on. That's not the vibe that I usually like to listen to, or it doesn't work for me. It doesn't sound good to my ear when I do it that way. I like it to free up and be, it's got a C0 every once in a while, but also I want it to be bouncing around so I know it's working and kind of holding my mix together. It's not like a hold the mix together. I'm not trying to glue. I'm not trying to glue is not exactly the goal here. I want it to help help make the music feel like it's moving together. It's like the kick and the bass are kind of helping to provide energy, and that's kind of what seeing this move around is what you really want. You want to see movement on it because that's bounce, that's life, that's rhythm, that's things kind of hitting against what's going on. So yeah, check out what this meter's doing here in the chorus.
They wanna see us down. That's right. So we stay freedom bound. Nothing can keep us down. We ain't scared to leave the ground. Oh.
And for comparison, let me do what I was just saying I don't like. Let me bring that threshold down so you can hear what it sounds like with too much compression, even with some makeup gain added.
They wanna see us down. That's right. So we stay freedom bound. Nothing can keep us down.
And here's where we had it.
They wanna see us down. That's right. So we stay freedom bound.
Remember that. And here's with too much compression.
They wanna see us down. That's right. So we stay freedom bound. Nothing can.
For like a moment, it'll sound like, yeah, man. No. For the first split second, I'm like, oh, dude, that sounds better. But then like 10 seconds in, I'm like, oh, but wait, it's not bouncing up and down the same way. I hope you guys are hearing and feeling that same effect. But yeah, to me, it always sounds a little bit better with a little bit more movement happening here. And you can see my Oxford limiter. It's working every once in a while on like kicks and basses, big moments. But I'm not hearing any like real deliberate clipping right now, which is good. And now we're kind of to the point. If you guys watched the last After Hours, I was just talking about how much I love this enhanced curve, but it is absolutely audio crack. So you can get very addicted to it very fast, and you can use far too much of it on your mixes, and there's no going backwards. So use it, use your judgment, but don't always overdo it. But then also don't be afraid to overdo it every once in a while. Let me show you what that sounds like.
They wanna see us down. That's right. So we stay freedom bound. Nothing can keep us down. We ain't scared to leave the ground. Oh.
Yeah, like it's pushing just all the harmonic stuff up together. So it sounds, at 0, it's a little too little. 30 is far too much. I was at 1. Let's see what 5 sounds like.
They wanna see us down. That's right. So we stay freedom bound. Nothing can.
Just a little bit goes a long way. Adds a little zing to the hi-hats, kind of pulls everything together. But the move I actually wanted to make, the change I was going to create, and I saw somebody asking about this earlier too, or they weren't asking about this specifically, but they pointed out something that will be helpful and will be coming. It's not in V1, but it will be coming soon. Is for when you're automating stuff like this. So my main fader is just chilling at 0. When I pull this down, you can see
We got it.
there's no you don't get to see exactly what you just set. There's no readout of what automation level we're at right now. Lots of people have hit us with feedback about this. I'm gonna hit it back with another one. Show the dB value when automating things, please. Ben, and if you guys weren't all watching me type, I would type better, but also I would come in here and kind of tell them why, and then write them a nice note and tell them how much I'm loving working inside of Luna. But I'm busy right now, trying to show you guys how to make a cool mix. So there we go. Feedback is off. So the workaround for right now is just to over here at the bottom of the fader, see where it says 0, 0.
We got it conflicted.
Now it goes down to -7. So this is, it's only really helpful when you're doing stuff like this where you want to know exactly where you made your automation. But the trick I'm showing you here, the point I'm trying to get to here, is this is something I do on lots of mixes, especially near the end of the process. Is I call it goosing up and down the main fader. So you're using this to help push the energy into the chorus. Since there's so much drums and bass and there isn't a lot of energy difference, it's just a lot of arrangement and production difference between the two. Adding this little most of the time I do a half dB. If I want it to be really drastic, maybe a dB. The most I've ever done is 1.5 or 2 dB when I want it to super explode. So this is 0.7. So the main fader is gonna be down a little bit here, and then it's gonna jump back up. Very important for you guys to know, though, is that this. So this is the fader down here. So this is after all of these effects. So the faders are always post insert in Luna. So that means, if I have this peak limiter here, I want to be getting all the way to 0. So that's, so if I'm bringing that fader down, we're now saying, cool, the whole verse is just 0.7 down. Doesn't really matter if you were going to take this mix and then go somewhere else and master it. But there is a better way. There's a way to actually automate the energy of the entire mix before it hits that 2-bus chain. So it'll actually push this compressor a tiny bit more in the chorus and allow me to keep my fader level at 0. Probably wondering, how could you do that? Well, great question. I think this will work. Let's try it. So what I can do is I'm going to actually put this in latch mode. We're going to rock right before the chorus. I'm going to use the Neve summing trim that I was just talking so much love about. So we're going to start where it's at, which is very low down. This was part of my fixing of the gain stage last time. And I'll show you how I like to punch in automation like this on the fly. Check it out.
Flame guns. We walking around them with our face stuck all in the screen. Slave to the green, forgotten the dream.
They wanna see us down. That's right. So we stay freedom bound. Nothing can keep us down. We ain't scared to leave the ground. Oh, don't be scared.
All right, I think that move happened maybe a little bit late, but now, let's see. Oh man, sorry guys, I just showed you a bug. The bug is that we can't get to the automation for the Neve summing yet. So this would be a wonderful way to do it, but it is not going to be the way to do it right now. Let me back myself out of this. Undo. Guys, I've fully worked ourselves into a weird state here. Let's do read. Let's see if it recorded that automation. Hopefully not.
They wanna see us down. That's right. So we stay freedom bound.
Yep. All right, we're all good. We did not record automation. Note to if anyone that's trying to automate these things, you can't automate them yet. We're gonna. I hope this isn't annoying to you guys to see me constantly giving them feedback, but I need to be able to automate summing trim, please. I feel like half this tutorial is just me showing you guys how to submit feedback. All right, so again, I still want to make this move. I still want to add more energy to the chorus. I can't automate the trim yet. What can I automate? I can automate the makeup gain inside my SSL. So let's do that. So my makeup gain is down here. And this is probably a good one to just come in on the chorus, goose it up. Come on over here in the chorus, goose it up a little bit more because I want that chorus to have a little bit more energy. Let's come over here to the fourth chorus. And this one can get goosed the most. And let's see how big of a move. How big of a move did I just make?
They wanna see bad when she's real. Let's go. They wanna see us down. See us down. We stay freedom bound. Freedom bound.
There we go. We can bring all of these up a little bit. And I love that you can get back in there after the fact and still use all of these handles like that. It's very, very helpful. So yeah, let's bring those ones up. Let's see how this feels going into that first course now.
Flame guns. We walking around them with our face stuck all in the screen. Slave to the green, forgotten the dream.
They wanna see us down. That's right. So we stay.
There we go. You guys feel that? You feel that lift that comes in now? Even like, especially from the second verse into the third chorus, this lift should make a really big impact.
Won't see it as privilege. For me, it was something that I never fit in. Conflicted existence, stick out in my family's image. But as long as I'm hard to stack, I'ma keep riding for my better half. Come on.
They wanna see us down. That's right. So we stay freedom.
Yeah. So we're going from like, very little makeup gain to still not a lot of makeup gain, but that like, that I bet that's almost a dB and a half. That might be a touch too much there. There we go. Adds, it's just adding more life and energy to the choruses, which as a mixer, this is our job, is to be the director of energy for any mix or production. It's our job as a mixing engineer is to really make this song sing, make it sound great on small speakers, make it sound great on big speakers. This mix is going to play in lots of different places. It's going to be on people's earbuds. It's going to be in clubs. It's going to be in car stereos. It's going to be on little, sound bars. It's going to be played kind of everywhere. So what I'm always looking to do when or what I'm always kind of thinking about when doing these things is like, how can I make sure that even when someone's playing this on a really crappy speaker set, it still sounds good. So you're still getting the message of the song. You're getting the parts of the song that I want you to hear are still coming through. But then again, when I crank it, it's also got to feel great. So I know that if this is bumping in somebody's car, if it's bumping in a club or something, it has to also sound fantastic there. So all these moves are kind of keeping a lot of those different things in mind, but always focusing on the energy and on the intention of the artist in the song. Cool. Glad you guys are liking it. Oh, and we're Q&A time. Q&A. All right, I'm going to scroll through the chat and see what you guys are saying. Sounds great. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Song is cool. Thank you. I agree. It's a super cool song. If you guys don't already know, this is my homie Johnny Burgos. It's a really cool track, and I love the message of the song as well. Can you add just a little overload or distortion in the chorus so the vocal harmonies still catch your ear in that mid-range? You sure can. You can definitely do that. The chorus harmonies, you got me thinking. I was gonna answer questions, but now
See us down,
super clean.
freedom bound.
If I wanted to dirt these up real quick, check this out. I've got new summing on there, so I can hit that headroom.
See us down, freedom bound.
It's subtle. Did you guys hear it? Let me bring that back.
See us down,
Now up.
freedom bound.
Adds a little bit of hair to him. Good call. Thank you. Thanks for the tip. I mean, not that. Yeah, I guess I gave you the tip. You gave me the idea and the inspiration. So, good work, you and I. Sure. That's why I should avidly be sending feedback. 100% be sending feedback. Anyone else have a glitch when disabling plugins in the track view focus window not turning dark black? They're disabled, but sometimes they stay lit like they're active. I don't know if I've seen that bug. So you're saying you come over here and you're disabling them, but they're staying active? That's weird. The best tip if you guys are getting like weird glitches or like things feel like it's not doing exactly what it should be, the thing that I've found kind of works the best. I'm not going to do it right now because I don't want my whole system to potentially lose the stream, but close the session and reopen it. Sometimes I've had that fix weird visual glitches or plugin stuff like that. Just close the session, reopen it, give it another shot, and if it's still a problem, then hit the feedback button and let us know that you're experiencing some weirdness. Brand new program, bound to have hiccups here in 3 months. Yep. Yeah, what's super dope is how fast they're fixing things, and now that we've done a couple of rounds of bug fixes, Lev and Connor were talking on the office hours earlier today. The next focus I think is going to be still fixing and finding bugs and optimizing the program, but more importantly, I think they're going to start getting towards new features, and the most requested features are obviously going to be the ones that they're going to want to tackle next. So make sure they know which ones to hit by hitting the feedback button. Gain plugin automation, yes. Yeah, that's kind of what we ended up doing. As you saw, you just got to kind of pick where you want to add the gain. And when it's on the master fader, you got to be very aware that you do it in one of your pre-fader inserts is kind of the best place to add that sort of automation. And sometimes, if you've seen some of my Pro Tools mixes I've done before, I'll often have a bus that all of the things are collected in before the main fader. And I've actually done that in Luna as well, where I would take all of my subgroups, everything, all my reverbs, every track that's currently going to the main fader, which I don't know why I was doing that the slow way. Every track that's going to the main fader, please show me, hit the spill button. Check this out. So spill, if you guys don't already know about spill, you're welcome, because it is one of the coolest features in Luna. I mean, I think it's in some other workstations, but I find it's hella useful. Oh, here we got this track I was demonstrating stuff with earlier that we don't need anymore. Spill allows you to say, great, let me look at my main channel. Oops. Look, main channel, I want to see every track that feeds that main fader. That's it. I just want to see those tracks. Spill. There, now we can see all of my faders that are feeding into there. And if I wanted to make a change to all these, I can now just select them and then say I wanted to put these into a mix bus. You can do that. So you can take all these buses, put them into another bus, then do your 2-bus processing, and then that kind of frees up your main fader to be just a final thing. Or sometimes what I'll do is I'll use the mix bus for like the SSL and the massive passive and maybe even the Oxford limiter, but then put this final L2 style limiter just on the main fader. So there's a ton of different ways. There's lots of ways to do it, but you just got to pick the one that feels right for your workflow and for what you're working on. And then if you're going to do that little goosing trick, just make sure you're being very aware of if you're doing it to a pre-fader insert or on the fader itself. And then don't sleep on the spill button, because that is such a good feature. You can do it for any of these. So hook harmonies, spill. Now I'm just looking at those tracks, and you can do it both in the mix window, but you can also do it here in the timeline window. You can just hit spill on the guitars. There, now we're just looking at guitars for a moment, and it's blinking. It's ready to be unspilled, just like that. And let's unsolo those. All right, back to questions. Sorry, I'm getting distracted, guys. Here's the awesome channel strip feature you showed us that has all your plugins in one window. Oh yeah, the awesome channel strip function. You are so right. This is such a cool button. So top left of the plugin window, you hit this, and now you get to see all of your plugins in one window. Oh, that's rendering weird. All right, it's normally great. Oh, and then I just changed my freak. Undo. No, guys, I put my session into a buggy state where it's not undoing stuff as you would expect. But yes, plugin chains. This is a cool way to see them. But also, I kind of like being able to arrange them around my screen when you're just scrolling through them like that. It's cool, and it's a fun way to do it. But I personally honestly kind of prefer just opening individual windows. Can you use Ocean Way to give a vocal a room sound and use that as a verb instead of one on a Vox? Yeah, you totally can. Typically, if I was going to use it for like a vocal reverb or like something that I want to like build a room around, I put it in reverb mode. So that allows you to kind of send more stuff into it, and it's more like it's sending it out into the room as opposed to remiking it. But yeah, if you insert it on a track, put it in remike, play with both modes. They're both really good. There's just kind of a subtle difference with how they gain stage things, I believe. Love spill. You're in the Bay Area. Hella, yeah. Shout out to Dr. Voodoo for answering so many questions while I was busy. Super appreciate it. There should be an undo history added. Yeah, I 100% agree. It would be nice to have an undo history and be able to kind of pick and choose. You all know what I'm going to say next. Feedback button. Will you have the aux and master set up from the start of a mix? Yes, typically. So that's kind of if you saw After Hours #1, basically where we started the mix was where I'd already brought all the tracks in, kind of already done my first sets of groups, so put all the drums together, made a drum group, basses together, made a bass bus or group or whatever you want to call these, made a guitar group, made a guitar bus, made a keys bus, and then typically, like when I would work in Pro Tools, I would have like a template that had all of my reverbs and delays kind of already queued up, ready to go. But since I've been working in Luna, I've actually been a little bit more, rather than since there isn't a session import feature yet, and there isn't really like a template system yet. It's actually it's been nice because it's been a chance for me to challenge myself to build exactly what I want for each mix. So each mix is kind of getting a little bit more customized than what I do when I would typically work with like a template inside of Pro Tools. I love the template because it saves me a lot of time and I get my favorite settings and sounds right away. But it's also kind of dope to be, because Luna is so fast at creating new buses. Like, you know, if I wanted to add another reverb to this lead vocal, I just hit plus, another verb, hit enter in there. Like, it's already set up a send, it's set up the bus. It does a lot of things very, very fast inside here. So I don't really feel a strong, like I'm not missing having my template right now. I'm really appreciating being able to just kind of make stuff on the fly like that, and then be able to quickly take them away if I don't need them. What are the specs of my Hackintosh? It is a 7700K i7, 32 gigs of RAM, with a Radeon 5700 graphics card. So good graphics card, good processor, plenty of memory. And a motherboard that supports Thunderbolt, which was like the most important part. And that's about all I really would recommend saying, or not recommend saying. That's all I can really recommend at this point about doing a Hackintosh. There's so many good resources about doing it. But obviously Apple computers are kind of, if you want an Apple computer is kind of a great way to do it, because then you get their help and support and Apple Care and all the stuff that I've definitely enjoyed in the past, having owned I've owned cheese graters, trash cans, lots of laptops. It's the support that you get from doing a real Apple is second to none. When you build a Hackintosh, it is a hack. You are hacking things together, and so it can be much more temperamental and quirky, but also bang for the buck, and the amount of power and customization you can get on it is top notch. But that new Mac Pro is sick. Very expensive, but super sick. I do love my Hackintosh, and it's doing a great job of not only running Luna, but running streams and Luna all at the same time without freaking out. It's super, super good. Yep, and I do have a lot of DSP, as Voodoo pointed out. I've got X8 and X16, 2 satellite octos, and a quad sitting there in the back on my twin. A lot of DSP, a lot of horsepower. It's a beast of a machine, but when you work for UA and do mixes and masters and do this stuff for a living, and especially making content around this stuff, it really does help to have a bit of a beast of a machine. Will there be a native sampler instrument, say like Sample One and Studio One, to compose drum samples? I don't know. It depends on how many people give us that feedback. Shape is a multi-sampler, so it's got a lot of it's got a ton of sounds. It's got all sorts of samples that you can use, especially in the drum department. But you can't bring your own samples into Shape yet. Maybe if enough people give us feedback that they want to be able to bring their own samples into Shape, maybe they do it. Who knows? It's worth a shot. It's worth giving us some feedback. I appreciate it. So I would normally use templates, and aren't I known for a sound? I guess no. The way the templates, I don't think I have a sound. I have ears. I have ears that kind of, and I have a preference for how I want things to sound. But my template, my hardware, my analog gear, none of this stuff really is like, there's not like a trademark stamp that gets put on every single mix I do if I'm working the old way I was working. It's about ears and taste and making decisions with a mix, much more than any sort of template or gear formula. It's just the thing I like about templates, and the thing I like about having analog gear and analog summing and stuff like that. The reason why I've invested so much time and effort and money into these things is they do give you a nice head start. They do kind of get you closer to your destination faster. But I've been finding in Luna that head start that I'm talking about, to me, that's coming now from having Neve summing and having tape on the channels, on top of the fast workflow. But most importantly, just like, as you saw when I spell out my master here, by having a little bit of harmonic processing, having this little something happening to all the channels with the Neve summing, that's my head start now, man. And I've seen a lot of comments from people talking about how they're bringing tracks, from other DAWs into Luna, and they're noticing instantly it sounds better, and they're like, what? Like, it just sounds better automatically, and it, especially with the Neve summing, but even without it, I've seen reports of people And I haven't tested it. I've done a lot of testing of the Neve summing to try and learn the sound of it so I can speak to it for you guys. But yeah, it sounds fantastic, and that's the goal here, man. Is like, how can we get to a good sounding record as fast as possible so we can make more of them? That's always the goal. And talking to people is not conducive to doing it fast, but it is a lot of fun to hang out with you guys and answer all these questions. I love it. How are they getting away from analog gear in that limited sound profile? It never summons. Awesome. Yeah, the Neve summon never summons. I love that. All right, I'm scrolling back up. Let's see. Okay, guys, we're gonna run out of time. I'm just gonna do questions till the end, and then we'll listen to the mix one more time. I'll make some more adjustments. But this is definitely a point where I'm gonna send to Johnny and see like what else he's feeling it needs. I might maybe want to add like a little keyboard part for the bridge, but honestly, man, it's kind of cool with like the more sparse, little simple arrangement stuff that's going on. So this is already pretty rocking. So yeah, if there's anything you guys want to see for these last 15 or so minutes, we'll go a little bit long since we started a little bit late. If there's anything you guys want to see or hear, just shout it out in chat, and I'll try to get to it for you. Dun, 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 dun. Is it true that there's no delay compensation for native plugins? Will third-party plugins on top of a snare, for instance, send it out of phase with the bottom snare? I suspect there shouldn't be. There should be no issues like that happening. The delay compensation engine in all my testing has worked really, really well, even for phase accurate stuff like that. Even with AU plugins, the brains behind the delay compensation engine that's inside of Luna pays attention to everything. So as long as the plugin itself is reporting the correct amount of delay, which is often, I found this happens in plugins and Pro Tools all the time too, where they just don't quite report the right amount of delay that's occurring in their processing. And that's when you get troubles like that. But the engine itself that's built into Luna should be rock solid for delay compensation. So you shouldn't have any problems with that, especially for UAD or native plugins. Shouldn't matter. If you are finding that you're having an issue, definitely let us know, because that is very unexpected. And in my experience, has not happened yet. All right, you guys. I've scrolled back up. I haven't seen a lot more questions. Sell me an Ocean Way, someone. Yeah, right. Zoom buttons. Oh yeah, control. Oh, you guys know all the shortcuts now. You don't even need me to tell you the shortcuts. But yeah, favorite. So we're on spill mode right now. But yeah, number 1, R and T for in and out. E to expand whatever you got selected, and Control Option Command down arrow to shrink everything back into your window size. All right, I'm gonna scroll to the bottom of chat, see what you guys want to hear or see, and then any future plans on having Neve or SSL fader extensions? Well, there are. I mean, if you hopefully you've noticed when you send stuff into the Neve, you'll notice that the fader actually does change. And you can even notice there's this little detail. Notice how the sends on Neve channels. Look at that knob. The knob's not like that knob, right? It's because it's a Neve knob. That's what's really cool. So if I were to, let me just take something off of one of these. Notice the fader. This is the default Luna fader type. When I go to Neve summing, it actually changes the scale of the fader to match exactly how a Neve fader would look and work, which is attention to detail. That's what these guys at UA are always doing. Some discussion on the forum about the calibration of the Neve summing VUs. Does it even matter? I mean, I guess it kind of matter. It matters if you're really, really depending on it, but I don't know exactly what number it's calibrated to. I do know from what I've been told that it is following the ballistics of what a Neve summing or what a Neve console would be doing. So yeah, if you're kind of in that nice sweet spot around, dancing around 0 with your loud stuff and, chilling out, as long as you're not pinning it all the time, it probably should sound pretty good. Question about importing MIDI tracks. I'm working with a band and did not record to a click track, and I have recorded MIDI without much attention to tempo and Logic. Struggling to get all the MIDI at the same tempo as the song and Logic, but not changing the audio imported into Luna. Any help with these kinds of imports? Yeah, that's a tough one, man. So, If they didn't set tempo and then they recorded audio and recorded MIDI, my assumption would be that their session was just hanging out at 120 BPM. So in theory, that MIDI, because MIDI data is locked to, divisions of bars and beats, and audio is, locked to minutes and seconds. So as long as you have those two lined up and together, you should be able to drag them all in together, and they should all reappear on the timeline in sync with each other. They won't be in sync with the bars and beats, but they will at least be in sync with each other. If they, and then you're in for, and then what you'd want to do is, if you're able to get them in at 120 and it's all working and it's all playing back just fine, then the one thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to come over here, hit option, which means do this to all. And for mode, you go from tempo mode to time mode. So this locks everything. This says, hey, all my tracks, including my MIDI tracks, pay attention to the minutes and seconds, not the bars and beats. And then once they're in that time mode, then you can use, there's a cool feature called align bar. It's called identify beat in Pro Tools. It's called align bar. And this allows you to say, cool, you can build a tempo map on non-grid recordings by saying align bar. And you just say, great, here's downbeat of a bar. Here's the downbeat of another bar. And it will automatically build a tempo map along with you. But yeah, if people not recording things to a click and then wanting to put it onto a grid, that's not fun in any workstation, I can tell you that. Is there a resource for all Luna key commands? There absolutely is. Help, keyboard shortcuts. Right here, it pops open your browser and you get to there's a full list of all key commands inside of Luna. And this was always updated anytime they'd make an update. If anything changed, it would be changed in that document. Oh, and Voodoo already had that answer. I didn't need to say nothing. Is there a UA mix surface coming out? Can't comment on future products or what I wish I could tell you guys, but is there new sounds for shape? Is there more console extensions? Are we getting more tape? These are all fantastic questions that I can't answer, nor do I actually know. I'm a marketing guy. I make records and do marketing for Universal Audio, so they don't tell me that sort of top secret info. I just get to know once it's actually like on its way out. Please inform us about creating markers, colors, etc. Hell yeah, I love markers. It's one of my favorite things to do in a session, as you can see, is to get in there and do a little bit of painting. It'll be a little bit of a Picasso with my track colors and my marker colors. So if you got like a full-size keyboard over on the right-hand side, that enter key, if you hit that, that's how you can quickly create a marker. If you're on a laptop, you have a return key, you don't have an enter key. So you're going to want to press function return, and that acts as an enter key. Or if you're more of a mouse kind of person, come up to the marker track here and hit plus. And if you're not seeing the marker track for some strange reason, if you don't see this in your timeline, hit this button, the ... next to your rulers. And this is where you can tell it what rulers you want to be seeing. But yeah, so hit the plus sign next to markers, give it a name, mid-verse, give it a color, pink, hit apply. That's how you get a marker with colors. And then of course you can you can select any marker and you can modify it. You can tell it what time it is. You can tell it what color you want it to be. You can do all these sorts of things, and you can even delete it from this little focus browser area. The zero key on numeric? I don't think zero key works.
In the White House.
Zero is playback. It's the enter key that you want for markers. Is there a way to separate more than stereo outputs of virtual instruments? Not in V1. In V1, the multi-outs or multi-out instruments don't work yet. If that's something you would love and want for your workflow, hit the feedback button. Let us know. Nice. Killing it. Nice. Well, you guys have such good questions, but anybody want to hear anything besides just the song one more time before we sign off? No? All right. Let's hear the song again. I love it.
wanna see us down.
That's right.
So we stay freedom bound. Nothing can keep us down if we ain't scared to leave the ground.
That's
Oh.
right. We got it conflicted. We hate ourselves more than the system. Chasing an image without a vision, no pot to pissing. Believe I'm no different. Sometimes I feel like I'm only standing it. Just think about money and bitches. We doing all the heavy lifting. They keep us complacent. Materialism, religion, addiction. The freedom is fake when conviction is based on fitting description. And the White House full of clowns. The ringleader want the crown. The clan is all of they mans. Now whether they fan base over here tripping. See, we been played for a fool, following these made up rules. And the police stay so deep that I hate these kids ain't safe in the school. And believe I hate them, but we can't just blame guns. We walking around them with our face stuck all in the screen. Slave to the green, forgotten the dream.
They wanna see us down. So we stay freedom bound. Nothing can keep us down. We ain't scared to leave the ground. Oh.
Don't be scared. We gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' fly. So high. They feeding us garbage. We eating regardless. You are what you eat. Hard to compete without owning your harvest. See, government is monopoly. Concerned with their pockets and nothing. To the people. And this kind of evil is what they want us to not believe. And the proof is plain to see. It's how this nation came to be. We living in shame. Ain't nothing gonna change. Till we face our roots in slavery. Ooh, that guilt is heavy, man. But nothing more deadly than being young, brown, or black and American. I'm mixed, but I ain't gassed. My skin so light, I pass. Mostly it is privilege, but me it was something that I never fit in. Conflicted existence, stick out in my family's image. But as long as them odds are stacked, I'ma keep riding for my better half. Come on.
They wanna see us down. So we stay freedom bound. Nothing can keep us down. We ain't scared to leave the ground. Oh.
We ain't scared. We gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' fly, we gon' fly. The nerve of you to even dare to think that I should care how you feel. I throw you off, I know it's rare, but no emotions can be spared when shit's real. Let's go.
They wanna see us down.
See us down.
We
We stay
freedom bound.
freedom bound.
Nothing can
That's right.
keep us down.
No, no.
We ain't scared.
We ain't
So
scared.
to leave the ground. Oh, no.
Can't be scared. Gotta spread those wings.
Nice. Yeah. Thank you guys. I'm so glad you guys think that sounds really good too, because I tend to agree with that sentiment. I think it sounds pretty rocking at the moment. Cool suggestion there. I brought up the overall master level. If you guys are monitoring this where you are at, what the feed that I send out to the stream is actually 6 dB down from peak, so that way we never have any overs as we go streaming. But when I moved there, I just turned on my TC limiter to see how I'm doing. This is at a super competitive level. This is already rocking like hanging at like -9, -8 kind of area, which is right in the sweet spot for a track like this. But as I was playing back, I hope you guys saw what I was doing there. I was kind of taking the Neve, summing in and out across the whole mix. And did this experiment I think in the last after hours as well. But to my ears, it's like adds a little bit of evenness and thickness. But it's one of those things where like when you take it away, you're like, what happened? Where'd it go? What, like, it sounded good, but now it sounds, it sounds fine without it. There's nothing bad, but when you put it back in, you're like, it just kind of rounds things out in a really musical way. And that's the point. That's the idea behind any sort of summing or any sort of console-based workflow, is just that little extra harmonic love that you get kind of added up across multiple buses. When you take it away, you miss it, but when you add it back in, you can't really say like, oh, it's boosting this or it's adding a ton of saturation. So it's not adding a ton of anything. It's adding little bits here and there. And then obviously, as you can see on my main, I've turned the headroom all the way up. So that way it's adding as little effect as possible, but still being there. And then using that low impedance setting, it just adds a little bit of extra beef to the sound as well as a tiny bit of gain. So yeah, and of course I made the mistake yet again of forgetting to like use that opportunity to just do a real-time bounce. So I'm gonna do that after we sign off here. Guys, it's been super fun hanging out with you guys all again. We've made so much progress on this mix. I'm feeling very good about sending this one off to Johnny and getting his final notes and tweaks. And I think, fingers crossed, our next session might be our last one on this song. And then I'm going to find another song, and then we're going to do another mix. So if there's things that you guys want to see me do on the next song specifically, I know some people last week were asking for some analog summing demonstrations. Maybe we'll do that. But I'll leave it up to you guys for what you want to see more of. And yeah, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for chatting. Thanks for all the questions. You guys are, as always, super awesome, and I really enjoy hanging out here. So I hope you guys have a good evening, and I will see you all tomorrow. Peace.